Jesus revealed himself as the Good Shepherd. But if you love him, there's a shepherding job for you too. Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Good morning and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy to remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said comes from John 21, 15 through 16. And we'll be reading a few verses at a time today and going through verse 19 to get the whole story here. So let's begin in John 21, 15, and we're reading today from the New Living Translation. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Now, in order to fully understand this, we have to kind of read between the lines here. In English, the word love can mean several different things. In the original Greek of the New Testament, there are several different words that are translated into English as love. And in this discussion with Peter, Jesus is using one word for love, and Peter is responding with another. Verse 15, Jesus says, "Do you love me more than these? Do you agape me?" And that word agape is the highest word for love. It's like the God kind of love. And do you love me more than these? Well, they were eating fish, and that was Simon Peter's former occupation. He was a fisherman before he was a follower. And Peter says, "You know that I love you," but he uses not the word agape, he uses the word phileo, which is more like a friendship or a fondness kind of love. And there are also some interesting words here used for feed and sheep. And the first one, the challenge that Jesus gives him here, is to feed or to pasture, to let graze my little lambs. Jesus is asking for this highest commitment of love for new believers, pretty much. And Peter is responding when Jesus says, "Do you agape me more than these?" Peter is responding, "Oh, you know that I'm your friend," which is not exactly what Jesus asked. So Jesus, verse 16, repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you. Then take care of my sheep." Now, just reading this in English, you don't really understand the contrast in how that this wasn't just repeating the same thing. There were some other things happening here. Once again, Jesus is saying, "Do you agape me? Do you love me with the highest God kind of love?" And Peter is responding, "Well, you know that I'm your friend. You know I phileo. I'm fond of you." And the challenge here, Jesus says, "Shepherd or care for my sheep," or literally the sheepfold, like the congregation. And then the third time, verse 17, the third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. And he says, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Then Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." Now, once again, in English, this sounds like the same thing, but Jesus changed the word here for love. In fact, the third time he asked the question, he didn't use the word agape. He used the same word that Peter had been answering back. Jesus says, "Do you even phileo me? Are you even my friend?" And Peter was hurt by that. And he said, "Jesus, you know that I phileo. You know that I am fond of you." And the challenge that Jesus gave him was to feed, same word that was used the first time, to pasture, to graze my sheep. So after this challenge, Jesus explains the sacrifice ahead of him. And he asks Peter to do the same thing that he asked when they first met. Going on to verse 18. I tell you the truth, when you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go. Now, unpacking that doesn't sound very encouraging. But verse 19 explains it. Jesus said this to let him know by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, "Follow me." Now, that's the very same thing that Jesus said at the beginning, over 3 years before. And Jesus chose this loudmouth, hardworking fisherman to be the one who would preach on the day of Pentecost, and 3,000 people would follow Jesus in one day. And then in the letters that Peter wrote, we see that this conversation really did change him. He really did follow. He really did learn to show that agape kind of love. In 1 Peter 2:17, he writes, "Honor all people, love the family of believers, fear God, honor the king." Now, Peter doesn't use the word phileo here, to be fond of the family of God, but it's agape love. Peter finally got it. And so the question today is, are you fond of Jesus, or do you agape him? Love him with the highest love, enough to make it not about yourself, but willing to love and honor everyone, to quite literally feed his sheep. Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it does mean a lot when you like it, when you share it, when you comment. I really appreciate you. I hope that you have an amazing day. And I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest, the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.